Okay, today we're going to talk about a feature that's available in Blueline for allowing you to set prerequisites and requirements. Now, why in the world would you want to do this? Suppose you have an assignment for students that they have submitted where they had to answer a bunch of questions. And you really want to give them guidelines on those, but you don't want them to see those guidelines until after they have submitted that Word document assignment, for instance. You can actually set it up so that students do not have access to it until after they've submitted the assignment. Or suppose you've got a module and you want to make sure that students are doing well enough in that topic area before they move on to the next. You can actually set it up so that students have to score a certain amount on a quiz, for instance, before the next module opens up. So there are a lot of different ways to use it. I have one faculty member that I've worked with that actually does do that. He's got homework assignments that they do. They submitted them as Word documents. Once they've submitted them as Word documents, then it opens up a module that gives them guidelines on all those questions that they had. So it helps them with their studying for the actual exams that they're going to have. Okay, so let me show you how you do that. It's actually pretty simple, and I tried to write out the instructions for it, but since I wrote them out and I played with it and I knew how to do it, I'm not sure how good they are. You'll have to try it out and see. But hopefully they will help a little bit. So I've set up some modules in this course right here. And I thought I'd show you a couple of different ways to work with this. So suppose in this first module we've got some of the reading to do, we've got an overview, we've got a discussion, a quiz, and an assignment. And in this module, we have an answer key for the quiz for this first module. Okay? So the first thing that you have to do when you want to use this feature is determine what it is you want students to do. Do you want them to score a certain amount on a quiz? Do you want them just to submit an assignment? Do you want them to view something? Doesn't mean they read it, but you can even set it so that they have to view something before they can move on. So let's start out with saying that in order to see these quiz answers, we want to set up a prerequisite that they make a certain score on the assignment before they see them. Okay? So what you do first is you have to determine what it is about a module that completes that module. So we're going to say that for this first module, we come over here to that little gear icon, we click on the edit button, and you've probably seen these things but maybe didn't know how to use them. So what we're going to do is come down here to where it says add a requirement. This module is complete when? When what? We're going to add a requirement. From this drop-down, you will see all of the items that occur in that module. So since we're talking about the quiz, I'm going to come down here to Week 1 quiz, and then I have these choices over here. I can say view the item, contribute to the page, submit the assignment, score at least. So I want to say I want them to score at least 40 on this assignment before that key's going to open up. So I do that. I can add more requirements if I want to. I mean, I could really pile on the requirements to get through it, to make sure they've done all the things that I want them to do. But right now I'm just going to do that. I have to remember to update it. Now, look what has changed here. You will see here that it says must score at least a 40 on this. But it doesn't say what that means. I must score at least 40 for what? So the second part of it is to set up the prerequisite for the module that contains the material that you do not want them to see until they have met that prerequisite. So that's what we're going to do here for this Week 1 quiz answer sheet. So we come to that one. Again, go to the gear, go to edit. This time we're going to add a prerequisite. So I click on this. The only prerequisites you can have are completion of modules. So you'll see here, before students can view this module, they must complete what? The only thing we actually set any requirements for was the week 1 module. I could say week 2, but it hasn't been set up yet. Okay, so now I'm going to choose that, click Update Module, and now look down here, you have something added. It says the prerequisite is to complete week 1. So what does that mean for the student? So if I look at it from the student point of view, and I recommend that you do that. When you set this up, go in as a test student and see what it looks like. Make sure that it's doing what you want it to do. So especially when you first start with this. So if I go to Settings, upper right, I'm going to Student View. All right, notice here that this is grayed out. I cannot get to the week 1 quiz answer sheet. No clicking is going to help me out with that. So I know that I've got to get at least 40 on this quiz before I can get to that. So let me go ahead as a student. Take this quiz. And this is a really hard quiz. As you can see, I'm going to get the right answer. And I'm going to get the right answer on this one. And I'm pretty good at this, yes. Right answer on this one. This one I'm going to get the wrong answer on. Submit the quiz. Tells me that I got 40 out of 50, which means that it should open that up, correct? So I can get to it one of 2 ways. I can use the navigation at the bottom there, or if I go home again, you will see, it's no longer gray. It is opened up. Okay? So now I could go in and look at the answer sheet here. Okay, suppose that you want them to do that before they see the answer sheet, but before they can get into week 2, you want them also to have done that plus submitted to the discussion. So what we can do here is we can come up here and add another requirement for completion of that module. I have to leave student view first though, remember to do that. So come up here, edit, and I'm going to add a second requirement right here. That second requirement is going to be the discussion, and I want them to contribute to it. Update module. Now there are 2 items that are required for completion of this module. That means that even for this, they will have to have submitted to that discussion before they can get to this answer sheet. But I haven't said anything yet for week 2 module. So I'm going to come up here, edit this, and I'm going to add a prerequisite. They must complete module 1 before they can get into module 2. Updated. I'm going to go back here to settings. I'm going to go to the student view. And let me recommend something to you. When you're trying this out with the student view, remember to reset your student. When you reset your student, it takes away everything that that test student has done. So it's like you're starting from scratch. So it clears everything out. Okay, now you can see that there are 2 grayed areas right here. They can't get to the answer sheet, and they cannot get to the week 2 overview. So even if I go in here and score 40 or 50 on the quiz, I still would not be able to get to these until I had also contributed to the discussion. Okay, do you understand sort of how that's done? And have some ideas about how you might be able to use that in your class? Do you have some questions? This is really an area that if you have a sandbox, you might try it out in the sandbox. See how it works. But there are a lot of ways here where you can make sure that students are where they need to be before they go on. You know, if they're doing really poorly on a topic, maybe you don't want them to attack the next topic yet. So there are also some creative ways of maybe you don't want them to get into this fun module that's got something neat in it until they've scored a certain thing. So maybe you put some neat videos, or maybe you're acting out something yourself or whatever, and it's something they want to see. You could set a module for that. So it doesn't have to be like a week 2, week 3 module. It can be a totally separate module that has something different in it. Like I said, a fun activity, or maybe some more study notes. or whatever.
I noticed you had an option there to put a date after it couldn't be done before. My question would be, when we have distance students who are in different time zones, how will that get interpreted in different time
Well, that's
zones?
different than what this is. What you're talking about is, here, let me leave the student view. So if you come up here to edit, you're talking about locking
Yeah.
a module.
Uh-huh.
That's totally different. So you can lock a module until a certain date, but that is separate from setting prerequisites and requirements.
Okay. All right.
But if you lock it, it will be based on the time zone the student has set for their blue line, their version of blue line. So, for instance, if you say it's not going to open up until 8 o'clock on Monday, that module.
CET, if they're in a different time zone,
They're in a time zone.
then it'll adjust for their time zone.
Correct, as long as they have made that change in their settings. You know what I'm talking about there? So if you go into the settings there, you can set a different time zone.
And people need to do that. I mean, I would assume enough.
They need to do that or realize that everything's on Central Time. So, any other questions?
But that really isn't part of the
No,
this
that's-
piece. Okay.
That's completely different. This one's, you can still control how students get through items within your course, but it's by things that they have done. Whether it's submitting, posting, whatever. There is one little thing that we saw that most students would never have an issue with. We did see that if you are doing a quiz that has all essay questions, and they start taking the quiz, and they leave the quiz before they submit it, it actually opens up that module. So that's been sent to Instructure as a bug. But most students would never know that, and you probably wouldn't have it. If you set it for number of points required for it, it's not going to affect it. That seemed, everything else we tried out was fine with it. So the other thing you need to consider is if they have to receive a certain number of points on an assignment or a quiz before they can continue, if it's something you're grading, you need to take that into account, because it means they will not be able to get into that module until after you have graded it and they have passed whatever that requirement is. Okay.